talking about our shit and still belonging after we do. We can talk about our lives. We can even talk about our spiritual lives. But can we talk about the ugly stuff and still belong after we do? Well, the science is in. Honest transparency, vulnerability in the context of safe relationships, powerfully transformative. You've probably read Brene Brown. The problem, where do we go to actually do that? And the most common answer is we go to professional therapy. I have. It is powerful. It is transformative. But as we saw in the last episode, culture is powerful. And we could create the kind of culture where that kind of transformation could happen without professionals. Now, I know we can because in our community we did it. But it didn't happen by accident. We worked hard to create that kind of culture. Yeah, we created tools. We've been talking about those, but we also created culture. And today I want to talk about another way we built that kind of culture, and it's this. I started doing self-awareness practice groups. Those groups were designed intentionally to get together, talk about our shit, and still belong after we did. Now, like most spiritual organizations, creating community is a mandate for us, but we realized, I found a book, I can't remember the title, we realized that to get to the deeper parts of community, we had to go through stages, and there are 4 of them. So we created spaces for all 4. We created public belonging spaces, so a newcomer could walk in the door publicly at any meeting, see what we do, hear what we say, and be able to quickly determine, yep, I belong here, or nope, I do not belong here. We created social belonging spaces, shared interest groups, places to connect around everyday life, game nights, brewery nights, places to go to get to know each other. We created personal belonging spaces, small groups where we could learn one another's stories, feel safe enough over time to share strengths and weaknesses, victories and failures. And we created deep belonging spaces, special groups designed for that one thing, safe places to talk about the ugliness in our lives, still belonging after we do. It's in that stage that we created self-awareness practice groups. They weren't nice discussion groups. They were spaces where we could train ourselves to face the hard stuff, be transparent, be vulnerable, and do it together. Here's what the groups were. They were a fishbowl worksheet group. 2 people, a worksheet doer and a listener, would sit in the middle of a circle of observers in a fishbowl and do the process together with other people watching. Now, early on, I usually did the worksheet part. I had trained someone to be a listener, and I would be as transparent as I was able to be, as vulnerable as I could be, sometimes raw. I would talk about those very personal prompts that are in the worksheet. I would talk about my episode and my afflictive thoughts and feelings, my words and actions. I would talk about the pattern that the episode brought up, other places in my life that that pattern had shown up and the damage that it had done in the past. I would talk about my core beliefs, those things sitting deep inside of me driving my patterns. And I would often tell how that pattern had sabotaged me in the past, how it had caused me to zig when life really needed me to zag, and who I hurt when I did it. And when we finished, we would open up the floor for questions or for comments. So yeah, that's scary. That kind of transparency and that kind of vulnerability in front of a bunch of people, it's scary. It's helpful if you tell everybody to read Brene Brown. But not once in all those times that we did that did anyone ever abuse my trust. In fact, quite the opposite. When we opened the floor afterward, there were some questions about the process itself. People wanted to learn how to do it. But most often, the comments were grateful and affirming and encouraging. Comments about how rarely this kind of experience happens, but how transformative they could see it could be in their own lives. The observers felt supportive, but they also felt supported themselves because they realized, community could be this. I could do this. So then the next time when I was looking for volunteers to be in the fishbowl, I would ask former observers. And sure enough, a lot of them agreed. They had felt so encouraging of the people in the fishbowl. They had felt so grateful for and supportive of. It was easy for them to imagine that the observers in their circle would feel the same toward them. They were learning a new culture. We were learning to be safe together and to be real together. We were learning a way to be that was a self-awareness way to be. And little by little, that culture spread. When enough people experienced those groups, when enough people were trained to do their worksheets and trained to be the listeners, and then when they saw in real life how that same kind of transparency and safety could be lived out in daily life, it changed our community. Because culture changes everything. So we did the scary thing and it was good and not bad. We did the scary thing and we were stronger and not weaker. We did the scary thing and we realized, we can create this kind of authentic community together. And when enough of us did it, it changed us, sure, but it also changed our whole community. A critical mass of people began to change how they were in the community, what they did and what they said, and how they did it and how they said it, and it changed how we treated one another in community. Everybody began to think differently about ourselves and about one another. Again, everything changed. We started to realize we're not alone in this. I am not the only one who has shit. In fact, some people that I admire a great deal are wrestling with the same kind of stuff that I am. So I guess it's okay to wrestle. I guess it's okay that I have a shadow side. I guess it's okay that you have one too, and I can learn to live with that and be tolerant with you. We normalized a different way to be together. The culture changed, and that changed everything. Now, one thing I noticed happen was a new shared vocabulary begin to pop up. I'd hear it in some conversation or another. Oh, I had a fight with my spouse, and sure enough, my suffering martyr pattern showed up again. Oh, my dad was in town, and hyper-responsible me kicked in again. Or I started a new job last week. Miss Chameleon showed up whole first week. But because we had done these worksheets together, because we had seen one another grapple with our shadow sides, it felt safe to talk that way. Our shit stopped being shameful. It was just human. It was just Tuesday. It was process. It was growth. In fact, it wasn't even shit anymore. It was just Tuesday. Culture changes everything. Culture gives us a language of change, normalizes honesty, makes us unafraid to work on our shadow sides. Culture changes everything. And that's our gig, leaders. Create tools, we've been seeing that, and create culture. And when we do, the community itself does the work of shared transformation. Now in the next episodes, let's shift from integrating the wisdom of Socrates for us as individuals to integrating his wisdom for us collectively. How do we normalize asking hard questions of the tradition itself? And maybe not get burned at the stake in the process. If you want to be notified when that comes out, go ahead, subscribe.